Hello and welcome to A Sound Constitution here on CHLY 101.7 FM, a show where we focus on health topics important to our community. This year's team is made of 8 fourth-year VIU nursing students. Our goal is to demystify health issues and address common misconceptions by sharing evidence-informed information from a variety of reliable resources. All information provided on our show will be available in our show notes on our Facebook and Instagram pages. We want to remind our listeners that the information presented in this show is for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments about what's being discussed, feel free to reach out to us at Facebook at A Sound Constitution, Instagram at CHLY A Sound Constitution, this is all one word, or email us at asoundconstitution@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We would like to start our show by acknowledging that we are on the unceded territory of the Nanaimo people, with a broadcasting range that overlaps the Kowatsun and Sliamon territories. This acknowledgement is done with the gratitude to the Nanaimo people and with the intention to increase awareness about truth and reconciliation processes and efforts on Vancouver Island. Additional information and resources surrounding the Nanaimo history, reconciliation, protocol, and land acknowledgement can be found on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Hi, welcome to A Sound Constitution. My name is McKenna, and I'll be hosting today's episode alongside Karis, Kiana, and Lauren. Today we'll be discussing alcohol. Alcohol, in a chemical context, refers to the broad class of organic compounds characterized by the presence of a hydroxyl group attached to a carbon atom. The most commonly consumed and discussed alcohol is ethyl alcohol, or ethanol. This is the active ingredient in alcoholic beverages such as beer, wine, and spirits. Ethanol is produced through a fermentation of sugars by yeast and has been part of a human culture for millennia, with references to its use dating back to ancient civilizations. While moderate alcohol consumption can be enjoyed responsibly, excessive and irresponsible drinking can lead to a range of health problems, addictions, and social issues. It is crucial for individuals to be informed about the potential risks associated with alcohol and to make informed choices regarding its consumption based on their personal circumstances and health considerations. It's also important to note that recently, Canada has changed the alcohol use guidelines to 0 drinks a week because there is negative health impacts associated with any consumption of alcohol. Next up, we will have a TED Talk from Professor Rod Phillips, a professor of the History Department at Carleton University. He studies the history of alcohol, history of food, history of the family, 18th century France, and the French Revolution. Stay tuned for more.
This chimpanzee stumbles across a windfall of overripe plums. Many of them have split open, drawing him to their intoxicating fruity odor. He gorges himself and begins to experience some strange effects. This unwitting ape has stumbled on a process that humans will eventually harness to create beer, wine, and other alcoholic drinks. The sugars in overripe fruit attract microscopic organisms known as yeasts. As the yeasts feed on the fruit sugars, they produce a compound called ethanol, the type of alcohol in alcoholic beverages. This process is called fermentation. Nobody knows exactly when humans began to create fermented beverages. The earliest known evidence comes from 7000 BCE in China, where residue in clay pots has revealed that people were making an alcoholic beverage from fermented rice, millet, grapes, and honey. Within a few thousand years, cultures all over the world were fermenting their own drinks. Ancient Mesopotamians and Egyptians made beer throughout the year from stored cereal grains. This beer was available to all social classes, and workers even received it in their daily rations. They also made wine, but because the climate wasn't ideal for growing grapes, it was a rare and expensive delicacy. By contrast, in Greece and Rome, where grapes grew more easily, wine was as readily available as beer was in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Because yeasts will ferment basically any plant sugars, ancient peoples made alcohol from whatever crops and plants grew where they lived. In South America, people made chicha from grains, sometimes adding hallucinogenic herbs. In what's now Mexico, pulque, made from cactus sap, was the drink of choice, while East Africans made banana and palm beer. And in the area that's now Japan, people made sake from rice. Almost every region of the globe had its own fermented drinks. As alcohol consumption became part of everyday life, some authorities latched onto effects they perceived as positive. Greek physicians considered wine to be good for health, and poets testified to its creative qualities. Others were more concerned about alcohol's potential for abuse. Greek philosophers promoted temperance. Early Jewish and Christian writers in Europe integrated wine into rituals, but considered excessive intoxication a sin. And in the Middle East, Africa, and Spain, an Islamic rule against praying while drunk gradually solidified into a general ban on alcohol. Ancient fermented beverages had relatively low alcohol content, at about 13% alcohol. The byproducts wild yeasts generate during fermentation become toxic and kill them. When the yeasts die, fermentation stops and the alcohol content levels off. So for thousands of years, alcohol content was limited. That changed with the invention of a process called distillation. 9th century Arabic writings describe boiling fermented liquids to vaporize the alcohol in them. Alcohol boils at a lower temperature than water, so it vaporizes first. Capture this vapor, cool it down, and what's left is liquid alcohol much more concentrated than any fermented beverage. At first, these stronger spirits were used for medicinal purposes. Then, spirits became an important trade commodity because, unlike beer and wine, they didn't spoil. Rum made from sugar harvested in European colonies in the Caribbean became a staple for sailors and was traded to North America. Europeans brought brandy and gin to Africa and traded it for enslaved people, land, and goods like palm oil and rubber. Spirits became a form of money in these regions. During the Age of Exploration, spirits played a crucial role in long-distance sea voyages. Sailing from Europe to East Asia and the Americas could take months, and keeping water fresh for the crews was a challenge. Adding a bucket of brandy to a water barrel kept water fresh longer because alcohol is a preservative that kills harmful microbes. So by the 1600s, alcohol had gone from simply giving animals a buzz to fueling global trade and exploration, along with all their consequences. As time went on, its role in human society would only get more complicated.
And once again, this was Professor Rod Phillips on the history of alcohol.
Well, you know what that sound means. It's time for another fact break. Did you know that quitting alcohol cold turkey can be life-threatening? Symptoms of withdrawal can set in as early as 6 hours after one's last drink. Some signs and symptoms of withdrawal include sweating, rapid heart rate, headache, insomnia, nausea and vomiting, hallucinations, anxiety and agitation, and even seizures. If you have been thinking about cutting back on alcohol, it is always advisable to do so under the guidance of a healthcare provider. These experts will have treatment timelines which minimize the uncomfortable and potentially dangerous withdrawal symptoms associated with alcohol. In these programs, clients are often prescribed a tapering dose of long-acting benzodiazepines like Ativan or Valium, which mimic alcohol at a cellular level. If you have questions about local programs or facilities, please visit our show notes on Instagram or YouTube pages.
Hey guys, welcome back to A Sound Constitution. This is McKenna. I'm joined here with Kiana, Lauren, and Karis. And right now we're going to do a quiz on alcohol, and we're going to test our own knowledge to see how much we know. So stay tuned. All right, so my first question for the group. What is the standard serving size of liquor? A, 2 ounce, B, 1.5 ounce, C, 3 ounce, or D, 8 ounce?
I think it's 1.5. Isn't that like a shot?
I thought a shot was 2 ounces, but I have absolutely no idea.
I thought 2 ounces was
Yeah.
like a double. So
You're like 0.5.
I think we gotta go a little bit lower, like 1.5 ounce would be the standard serving size.
Can you tell none of us are bartenders?
Yeah.
I took my serving course or whatever, Pro Serve.
Serving it
right. It's Pro Serve in Alberta.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, like a long time ago when I turned of legal age. Anyways, I was going to be a server, and then I ended up doing nursing stuff, believe it or not. So, all right. The question to answer 1 is 1.5 ounces. Congratulations, Lauren. You were correct.
She was a server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, someone with a blood alcohol concentration between 0.05 and 0.07 may be feeling A, buzzed, B, very drunk, C, lightheaded, or D, dazed and confused. Is 0.08 the amount that you're not supposed to drive at? So I would say like either lightheaded or buzzed if you're still legally allowed to drive, but also I could be wrong with that.
I think that you can be buzzed to drive legally.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's true.
lightheaded.
I think lightheaded as well.
I mean, I'm always lightheaded, so the answer is buzzed.
Okay, next question. Blank in the stomach will slow the absorption of alcohol into the bloodstream and delay impairment. A, acetaminophen or Tylenol. B, acid. C, alcohol. Or D, food.
My guess is food.
They always say bread.
Yeah. To eat, and make sure you eat before you go out drinking. So I think that might be it.
I think that it's food, but I don't think it... I think the key word there is delays impairment. It doesn't prevent, it just delays.
I believe I think it's because your body processes it. Is processing multiple things at once instead of just processing the alcohol and it going straight to your bloodstream. But I mean, it's still going to get there.
We were correct. The answer is food.
All right, the next question we have a true or false. True or false? While drunk, your sleep quality is worse than when you're sober.
This is true. I know this one for a fact. As I read a study on it not too long ago. But basically, it screws up your circadian rhythm, I believe. Maybe I am making this up, but...
I think I read alcohol wrecks your REM sleep, so you'll never actually have, like, a good quality sleep.
Even if it feels like
you passed out.
And the answer is true.
All right, next question. With blank, you will feel less drunk, so you're less able to accurately judge your ability to function. A, tolerance. B, withdrawal. C, sleep. And D, mixing alcohol types. I would say as you build a tolerance to anything, you're less able to accurately judge your ability to function. That's what happens with... Yeah, I would say this happens with different medications as well, where they don't affect you the same way as they did when you first started taking it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the answer for that was tolerance.
Okay, as a rule of thumb, the liver can process about how many standard drinks per hour? A, 5, B, 2, C, 1, and D, 3.
I can't remember if the answer is 1 or 2, but I do remember reading a study on this a while ago, because that's how you calculate your blood alcohol content without actually using a breathalyzer. Is that there's certain measurements, and it includes like how quickly your liver is able or can process shots. So if you're taking like however many shots in an hour, not all those shots are able to be metabolized by your liver, so then you have more alcohol in your bloodstream.
Right. And don't they say like one drink and one glass of water like per hour, like so that would keep you under the 0.8 or something like that?
So maybe 1?
Yeah, that's my guess.
The answer is 1.
Symptoms of alcohol poisoning include all of the following except A, the person cannot be awakened, B, the person has fast breathing and an accelerated heart rate, C, the person has cold, clammy, pale, or bluish skin, or D, the person is vomiting while passed out and does not wake up.
I heard that some symptoms is like you don't have a gag reflex. So then I don't know if you can control your vomiting.
I also think when they say person has fast breathing and an accelerated heart rate, I think a lot of this stuff slows.
That's what I was thinking because it's depressants.
B, it does not include person having fast breathing and an accelerated heart rate, so it would probably be the opposite.
All right, next question. We have a true or false. True or false? Energy drinks mask the effects of alcohol by giving you a sense of energy and the false sense that you are not that intoxicated.
So this is basically doing uppers and downers. You have a sense of heightened whatever due to the energy drink, and then you have a depressant. So obviously it's kind of like a teeter-totter. One's balancing out the other, but it's actually the side effects are still going to happen. You just can't feel them as much. So it's kind of a dangerous game. That's why they tell you not to drink energy drinks or caffeine while you have alcohol.
Also, unpredictable is one, like half-life may be longer than the other, so you don't realize how much you've taken, and then as they're kind of teetering out, kind of unpredictable what the outcome could be.
Mm-hmm. And like the overlap too, because you're not really sure when one will leave your system and the other one will take over. And the answer is true.
All right, our final question for today is, binge drinking can be defined as blank, or more drinks in 1 2-hour period for women, and blank, or more drinks for men. I think a 2-hour period is what's throwing me off here, because I believe it's something like, I feel like it's 4 and 5 or something along those lines. What do you guys think?
That's kind of what I was thinking as we were talking about the 1-to-1 kind of drinks, the liquor drink and then a water and like that sort of thing in the equation McKenna was talking about before without using the breathalyzer to get your blood alcohol concentration. But with the 2 hours, you almost kind of have to double it. So I'd probably say the 4 to 5.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm happy with that. Let's give it a go.
And that is correct, ladies. Awesome. And so that was McKenna, Kiana, Lauren, and Karis taking a quiz from the University of Toledo on alcohol. Stay tuned for more. Today we have a TED Talk by Dr. Judy Grissel, a professor of psychology at Bucknell University. She is a behavioral neuroscience with expertise in pharmacology and genetics. She will be explaining to us how your body works when you drink alcohol and what it means to be drunk.
Ethanol. This molecule, made of little more than a few carbon atoms, is responsible for drunkenness. Often simply referred to as alcohol, ethanol is the active ingredient in alcoholic beverages. Its simplicity helps it sneak across membranes and nestle into many different nooks, producing a wide range of effects compared to other, clunkier molecules. So how exactly does it cause drunkenness? And why does it have dramatically different effects on different people? To answer these questions, we'll need to follow alcohol on its journey through the body. Alcohol lands in the stomach and is absorbed into the blood through the digestive tract, especially the small intestine. The contents of the stomach impact alcohol's ability to get into the blood because after eating, the pyloric sphincter, which separates the stomach from the small intestine, closes. So the level of alcohol that reaches the blood after a big meal might only be a quarter that from the same drink on an empty stomach. From the blood, alcohol goes to the organs, especially those that get the most blood flow, the liver and the brain. It hits the liver first, and enzymes in the liver break down the alcohol molecule in 2 steps. First, an enzyme called ADH turns alcohol into acetaldehyde, which is toxic. Then, an enzyme called ALDH converts the toxic acetaldehyde to non-toxic acetate. As the blood circulates, the liver eliminates alcohol continuously, but this first pass of elimination determines how much alcohol reaches the brain and other organs. Brain sensitivity is responsible for the emotional, cognitive, and behavioural effects of alcohol, otherwise known as drunkenness. Alcohol turns up the brain's primary brake, the neurotransmitter GABA, and turns down its primary gas, the neurotransmitter glutamate. This makes neurons much less communicative, and users feel relaxed at moderate doses, fall asleep at higher doses, and can impede the brain activity necessary for survival at toxic doses. Alcohol also stimulates a small group of neurons that extends from the midbrain to the nucleus accumbens, a region important for motivation. Like all addictive drugs, it prompts a squirt of dopamine in the nucleus accumbens, which gives users a surge of pleasure. Alcohol also causes some neurons to synthesize and release endorphins. Endorphins help us to calm down in response to stress or danger. Elevated levels of endorphins contribute to the euphoria and relaxation associated with alcohol consumption. Finally, as the liver's breakdown of alcohol outpaces the brain's absorption, drunkenness fades away. Individual differences at any point in this journey can cause people to act more or less drunk. For example, a man and a woman who weigh the same and drink the same amount during an identical meal will still have different blood alcohol concentrations, or BACs. This is because women tend to have less blood. Women generally have a higher percentage of fat, which requires less blood than muscle. A smaller blood volume carrying the same amount of alcohol means the concentration will be higher for women. Genetic differences in the liver's alcohol processing enzymes also influence BAC, and regular drinking can increase production of these enzymes, contributing to tolerance. On the other hand, those who drink excessively for a long time may develop liver damage, which has the opposite effect. Meanwhile, genetic differences in dopamine, GABA, and endorphin transmission may contribute to risk for developing an alcohol use disorder. Those with naturally low endorphin or dopamine levels may self-medicate through drinking. Some people have a higher risk for excessive drinking due to a sensitive endorphin response that increases the pleasurable effects of alcohol. Others have a variation in GABA transmission that makes them especially sensitive to the sedative effects of alcohol, which decreases their risk of developing disordered drinking. Meanwhile, the brain adapts to chronic alcohol consumption by reducing GABA, dopamine, and endorphin transmission, and enhancing glutamate activity. This means regular drinkers tend to be anxious, have trouble sleeping, and experience less pleasure. These structural and functional changes can lead to disordered use when drinking feels normal, but not drinking is uncomfortable, establishing a vicious cycle. So both genetics and previous experience impact how a person experiences alcohol, which means that some people are more prone to certain patterns of drinking than others, and a history of consumption leads to neural and behavioral changes.
That was a TED Talk by Dr. Judy Grissel on what happens to your body when you consume alcohol. Next up, we have another TED Talk from this doctor. One thing that's often associated with drinking is the hangover. Hangovers are not any fun, but understanding why you experience them may make them just a little less awful. Today we have a TED Talk by Dr. Judy Grissel, a professor of psychology at Bucknell University. She is a behavioral neuroscience with expertise in pharmacology and genetics. She will be explaining to us how hangovers work.
In a 1973 study, 20 volunteers got drunk once a week for 8 consecutive weeks, each time on a different alcoholic beverage and each time with precisely the same dosage. This was science, after all. The goal of this experiment was to find out which alcoholic drinks cause worse hangovers. Of course, it takes much more than one small study to answer such a question. Since then, science has learned a lot about hangovers, though some mysteries remain. The molecule responsible for hangovers is ethanol, which we colloquially refer to as alcohol. Ethanol is present in all alcoholic beverages, and generally speaking, the more ethanol, the greater the potential for a hangover. The symptoms and severity can vary depending on weight, age, genetics, and other factors. But still, hangovers generally share some common and unpleasant features. So how exactly does alcohol cause a hangover? And is there any way to reliably prevent one? Alcohol slows down the communication between neural cells. After someone has had their last drink, as the concentration of alcohol in the blood drops back to 0, the brain rebounds from sedation and swings in the other direction, entering a hyperactive state. This may lead to the tremors or rapid heartbeat associated with hangovers. It also makes sleep shorter and less restful than normal. But these effects are just the beginning. Alcohol impacts so many of the body's processes, throwing delicate balances off kilter. And even the most familiar hangover symptoms have surprising contributors. For example, alcohol disrupts levels of many hormones. One of those hormones is cortisol. Normally, fluctuating cortisol levels help regulate wakefulness throughout the day and night. So the disruption in cortisol during a hangover may cause people to feel groggy or disoriented. Another hormone alcohol interferes with is vasopressin, which normally decreases the volume of urine made by the kidneys. By decreasing levels of vasopressin, alcohol causes people to pee more and become dehydrated. Dehydration can lead to thirst, dry mouth, weakness, lightheadedness, and headache, one of the most common hangover symptoms. In addition to dehydration, hangover headaches can result from alcohol's influence on chemical signaling in the brain, especially on neurotransmitters involved in pain signaling. Alcohol can also damage mitochondria, which are responsible for producing the ATP that gives us energy. This may contribute to the fatigue, weakness, and mood disturbances experienced during a hangover. Meanwhile, alcohol stimulates the immune system, leading to inflammation that can damage cells within the brain, affect mood, and impair memory. And it can irritate the gastrointestinal tract and inflame the lining of the stomach and intestines. Alcohol may also slow down stomach emptying, which could lead to increased production of gastric acid. This is why alcohol can cause stomach pain, nausea, and vomiting. Alcoholic drinks also contain other substances that are produced during the fermentation process that give the drink its specific flavor. Some evidence suggests that one of these, methanol, is particularly bad for hangovers. The body doesn't start metabolizing methanol until it's done processing ethanol. And when it does, the toxic metabolites of methanol may potentially worsen hangover symptoms. Beverages that are closer to pure ethanol, such as gin and vodka, may cause fewer hangover effects. Meanwhile, the presence of flavor ingredients in beverages like whiskey, brandy, and red wine may make these kinds of alcohol cause more hangover symptoms. So, the choice of alcoholic beverage matters, but any of them can cause hangovers simply because they all contain alcohol. So, do common hangover remedies actually work? Drinking water and electrolyte beverages can help reduce symptoms related to dehydration, and eating, especially carbs, can help replenish the glucose levels alcohol reduces. But ultimately, the only sure way to prevent a hangover is to drink alcohol in moderation, or not at all.
That was just a TED Talk from Dr. Judy Grissel on how alcohol causes hangovers. Another common misconception is that hangovers and alcohol withdrawal are the same things. A hangover and alcohol withdrawal are two distinct phenomena associated with alcohol consumption, each with its own set of symptoms and characteristics. A hangover typically occurs after a single episode of heavy drinking and is characterized by short-term physical and mental discomfort such as headaches, nausea, fatigue, and dehydration, as mentioned earlier. Hangovers are a result of the body's reaction to immediate presence of alcohol and the byproducts of the system. On the other hand, alcohol withdrawal refers to a more serious and potentially life-threatening condition that arises when an individual who is physically dependent on alcohol abruptly stops or reduces their alcohol intake. Withdrawal symptoms can include anxiety, tremors, seizures, hallucinations, and in severe cases, delirium tremens. These symptoms typically begin within hours to a few days after their last drink and are the manifestation of the body's struggle to adapt to the absence of alcohol after prolonged exposure. Alcohol withdrawal can be a severe medical emergency and should be managed under the supervision of healthcare professionals. In summary, while a hangover is a temporary and relatively mild consequence of excessive alcohol consumption, alcohol withdrawal is a much more serious and potential life-threatening condition that arises from the physical dependence of alcohol. For further information on alcohol withdrawal and hangovers, please see our show notes. All the information in this segment has been provided by Altamira Recovery Programs. Again, there will be a link in our show notes. If you're just tuning in, this is McKenna with the Sound Constitution here on CHLY 101.7 FM. Today we're discussing alcohol. Stay tuned for more.
What is alcohol poisoning? Alcohol poisoning, also referred to as an alcohol overdose, is caused by a large amount of alcohol in the bloodstream, resulting in areas of the brain being affected. This causes breathing, heart rate, and temperature control to shut down. In some extreme cases, an alcohol overdose can lead to permanent brain damage or death. The symptoms of alcohol poisoning are mental confusion, difficulty remaining conscious, vomiting, seizures, trouble breathing, slow heart rate, clammy skin, dulled responses such as no gag reflex, and an extremely low body temperature. Who may be at risk of an alcohol overdose? Anyone who consumes too much alcohol too quickly may be in danger of alcohol poisoning. Another risk is the combination of alcohol and opioids, or sleep medications. This combination can result in a risk of an overdose as this decreases breathing and blood pressure, which potentially can lead to the person becoming unconscious or going into a coma. One potential danger of alcohol poisoning is the person can choke on their own vomit. Do not leave an intoxicated person alone because they are at risk of getting injured or choking. It's important to keep the person on the ground in a sitting or partially upright position or lay them on the side to avoid any choking. It is important to look out for each other when drinking, so remember to take care of yourself and your friends.
One of our goals here on A Sound Constitution is to address common misconceptions. There are plenty of misconceptions when it comes to alcohol, and here are a few that you may have heard. 1. Coffee can sober you up. Drinking coffee or other caffeinated beverages might make you feel more awake, but it does not actually reduce your blood alcohol content or sober you up. Time is the only way to metabolize alcohol. 2. Beer before liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. The order of which you consume alcohol does not significantly affect your intoxication or hangover. It's the total amount consumed which matters. 3. Alcohol warms you up. Alcohol might make you feel warm as it dilates your blood vessels, but it can actually lower your core body temperature, which can of course be dangerous in cold environments. 4. Drinking alcohol boosts creativity. While alcohol might lower inhibitions like social anxiety and make you feel more relaxed, it does not actually enhance creativity. And excessive drinking can actually impair cognitive function and creativity. 5. Alcohol kills brain cells. Moderate alcohol consumption does not lead to the death of brain cells. However, chronic and heavy drinking can cause brain damage and impair cognitive function. 6. Alcohol builds tolerance to all effects. While tolerance to some effects of alcohol, like euphoria, can develop with repeated use, tolerance to the impairment of motor skills and judgment does not. This can often lead to risky behaviors, which of course is dangerous. 7. A glass of wine a day is good for your heart. While some studies show that moderate alcohol consumption may have cardiovascular benefits, it also carries health risks. This is sort of a risk-benefit situation, and the benefits can often be achieved through healthier lifestyle choices. 8. Eating a hearty meal before drinking prevents intoxication. Food can slow down the absorption of alcohol, but it cannot prevent intoxication entirely. Binge drinking can still result in intoxication and its associated risk. 9. Alcohol makes you sleep better. Although alcohol can initially make you feel sleepy and drowsy, it disrupts your sleep patterns and can lead to poor sleep quality, resulting in you feeling tired the next day. 10. You can sweat out alcohol. Sweating or physical activity does not speed up the elimination of alcohol in your system. Once again, only time can reduce your blood alcohol level. It is really important to separate fact from fiction when it comes to alcohol, as believing these misconceptions can lead to risky behaviors and potential health issues. Always drink responsibly and be aware of the effects of alcohol on your mind and body.
In the ever-evolving landscape of university life, the dynamics of alcohol consumption have been a topic of significant concern and interest. Our team at ASC took an anonymous survey among university students to explore their attitudes, behaviors, and perceptions regarding alcohol use. Our goal was to capture the thoughts and experiences of students from diverse backgrounds and disciplines. Alcohol, as a prevalent part of campus culture, elicits a wide array of reactions ranging from responsible enjoyment to concerns about its impact on academic and social life. Our aim is to uncover the nuance in this complex relationship. By delving into the experiences of university students, we seek to provide valuable insights that can inform strategies for promoting health, fostering a healthier campus environment, and ensuring the well-being of our student community. Alongside the survey, which we will speak about in just a moment, we also interviewed a handful of students on campus about their thoughts on alcohol consumption. Join us as we navigate the diverse tapestry of thoughts, opinions, and experiences that define alcohol use among university students today. All right, we are now on the VIU campus, and Karis, Lauren, Kiana, and I will be interviewing some VIU students on their thoughts on alcohol consumption. Stay tuned for a variety of answers from a variety of different students. All right, my first question for you are, what are some benefits and disadvantages of alcohol use?
Well, some benefits are it can help some people unwind and relax, and some disadvantages are the health challenges that come along with the use of alcohol.
What do you believe are some of the top reasons people choose to use alcohol?
I think the top reasons are to make people unwind and to feel more social, and sometimes they just use it to fit in with a group of people.
What do you think are the primary reasons people consume alcohol?
That's a good question. I think some primary reasons that people drink alcohol is to socialize with people better, as well as just let loose at the end of a long day, perhaps. And sometimes people drink it to chase that same feeling they had when they got drunk for the first time.
What would you say are some misconceptions regarding alcohol or the consumption of it?
I think some misconceptions people have is how safe people can feel after drinking alcohol. For example, there are some people who think they're lightweight or heavyweight. Some people think they can drink under the influence with just 1 beer or 2 beers, or they can drive, But I don't think any form of alcohol is safe for you to feel safe enough to drive or sober enough. So I believe, feeling lightweight or heavyweight, that's a common misconception.
Okay. And what would you say are any positive and negative aspects to drinking alcohol?
I can't think of any benefits that are good for you if you drink alcohol. I believe every single textbook out there, I'm sure you can flip to a section of alcohol and it's going to tell you, nope, do not drink alcohol. So I can't think of a single positive impact. No, it makes you feel loose at parties, but that's about it. Yeah.
Has alcohol consumption had any impact on your life?
No, I try to limit my consumption of alcohol because I'm aware of the negative impacts associated with drinking alcohol regularly, so I have not seen a big impact on my life.
How many drinks do you consume in a month on average?
On average, I'd say I consume 2 to 3 drinks in a month.
Okay.
All right, so what are some disadvantages and advantages of alcohol use?
I think some disadvantages of alcohol use is that people might use a bit too much of it, and it can go from something that's meant to be fun and can get you a little bit loosened up and have for a good time, and they take advantage of that, and it becomes something that's a little more dangerous, makes you do some dangerous stuff, and overall, I don't think I would personally do it often because I think it's too easy to get wrapped up into the not fun side of it.
And what are some of the main reasons that people choose to use alcohol?
I think some of the main reasons would be like social pressure, wanting to have some fun. Their friends are doing it, so why wouldn't they? Kind of those reasons would be the main reasons.
What do you believe are the 3 primary reasons people drink alcohol? And I'll list a few off here. There's socializing, coping, peer influence, boredom, cultural norms, celebration, enjoyment, or is there another one that you can think of?
I would say socializing, enjoyment, and peer influence would be the 3 that I would think of.
In your opinion, are there any misconceptions about alcohol?
That it ruins people's lives?
Name one positive and one negative aspect to alcohol consumption.
Positive for some people could be that it makes the time that they have with some people better.
That's a very good point.
Negative, I would say that you can use it as a coping mechanism.
Oh, both very good answers. Another question we have for you. How many drinks do you consume in a week on average? We have 0 drinks, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 12, or other.
On a good week, 0. On a bad week, I'd go 1 to 3 probably.
Have you noticed any specific trends or patterns in alcohol consumption among different age groups within our community?
Older people tend to view it as like something for like special events, and like younger kids would just be like, we just want to have a good time, so why not?
Yes, very good points, very good points.
All right, what are some disadvantages and advantages of alcohol use?
I'd say that advantages are you can have fun, you can be social, makes you like fit in, I guess, like a lot of people do it. Some drinks taste good. I'd say disadvantages, you feel gross, it's bad for you, it's expensive. Yeah.
What are some reasons that people choose to consume alcohol?
I'd say probably just to have fun. And I don't know, like I said before, like fitting in. It's what people our age kind of tend to do. It's just like the norm, so people do it. You're like almost weird if you don't. Yeah.
Our in-person interviewees basically came to the conclusion that majority of people drink alcohol to socialize and to fit in with their friends. But our online survey has some different results. 90% of people believed that the top reason was socialization, but the second most commonly chosen answer was that it was a coping mechanism. We also had high results for celebration and cultural norms. We also asked our listeners if there were any misconceptions about alcohol, and we received a variety of responses, not limited to, but including, that alcohol is healthy. I think that people don't realize that drinking when you're young is just as dangerous as when drinking when you're older. That small amounts are good for you. How easily susceptible people can be addicted to it. That most people in their 20s are not alcoholics. That there's any benefit. That red wine is good for you. And many more. We also asked how many drinks our listeners consume on average in a week. 47% of our listeners said 1 to 3 drinks, and second most common was surprisingly 0 drinks at 29%. We also asked if there are any specific trends or patterns in alcohol consumption among different age groups in our community. There are lots of comments about younger kids beginning to drink more, underage drinking, and just that junior high and high school age people are heavily focused on partying. We also asked our listeners if there's anything else they would like to contribute or say about alcohol or alcohol consumption. Here are some direct quotes from what our listeners had to contribute. Binge drinking isn't stigmatized as much as it should be. It presents a long-term risk for chronic health conditions with enough fervor in the millennial/Gen Z groups. Limited resources in Canada for detox. Hi, this is McKenna, and you're back with a Sound Constitution. If you're just tuning in, you were just listening to some of the results from our alcohol consumption survey that was taken amongst VIU students. Stay tuned for more. Blacking out, in the context of alcohol consumption, is a term used to describe a period of temporary memory loss during which an individual may engage in activities and conversations but later have no recollection of them. It occurs when alcohol significantly impairs the brain's ability to form and store memories. While blackouts are often associated with heavy or binge drinking, they are distinct from alcohol poisoning, a life-threatening condition where alcohol levels in the bloodstream become dangerously high. Alcohol poisoning can lead to severe symptoms such as confusion, vomiting, seizures, slow or irregular breathing, and unconsciousness. This requires immediate medical attention to prevent potentially fatal consequences. To learn more about alcohol poisoning and its symptoms, please refer to our show notes. This information is brought to you by the Cleveland Clinic. Next up on our show, we have a YouTube video from Insider Science describing what happens to your brain when you get blackout drunk. Please stay tuned for more.
Saturday, 12 p.m. The light burns, your head throbs, and you have no recollection of how you got back home. Don't worry, you're not alone. More than half of college students experience blackouts, according to several studies. And let's be clear, blacking out doesn't mean passing out. You were probably awake and aware the entire night. So then, where did all those memories go? Let's rewind to Friday night. Normally, whenever you have an experience, like a conversation, a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex stores that information in short-term memory. Then another part of your brain, called the hippocampus, weaves those experiences together so they can be stored away as long-term memories. So the next day, you remember the party as a whole, instead of smell of sweat, house music, Jen was there. But here's the key part. Storing these episodes in long-term memory requires special neurotransmitters. But your liquor shots prevent the neurotransmitters from working properly. So, instead of remembering the party, all you have is an incomplete or even empty file. And the amount of alcohol in your system at the time influences how much you remember. Let's say you're a 73-kilogram adult man, and you've done 8 shots in 1 hour. Your blood alcohol content is probably around 0.2% by this point, more than twice the legal limit for driving a car. And your brain may still be able to store some memories, so you end up with islands of memories separated by missing sections. That's called a fragmentary blackout, aka a grayout or brownout. But if you keep pounding those shots, it gets worse. Within the next half hour, you pound back another 4 shots. Now your blood alcohol content hits around 0.3%, and your hippocampus goes dark, and full amnesia sets in. This is called an en-bloc blackout. And once you wake up, that entire night could be blank. Push your BAC much higher than that, and you might die. And yet, your friends might not even realize you're in the middle of a blackout, since the alcohol didn't delete your long-term memories already safe in storage before the night began. So you can still carry on conversations and behave more or less like a typical person. To an extent. Blackouts aside, alcohol can still interfere with other regions of your brain, including those responsible for reasoning and decision-making. So during blackouts, people have crashed cars, gotten into fights, and committed or been the victims of sexual assault. They might just not remember it. That being said, not everyone gets blackouts. Your sex, body weight, and family history all play a role. So that could explain why your friends recall the entire night, despite downing just as much tequila. But it won't save them from a wicked hangover the next morning.
Hey, this is A Sound Constitution, and if you're just tuning in, that was a TED Talk from Insider Science on what happens to your brain when you black out due to alcohol consumption. Stay tuned for more. In conclusion, our exploration of alcohol consumption in this episode has hopefully shed some light on the multifaceted nature of this prevalent and often controversial topic. We've examined the historical, cultural, and social aspects of alcohol, as well as many of the health complications associated with this consumption. The Canadian government actually recommends that you consume 0 drinks a week. And further information about this can actually be found in our show notes, as well as different resources surrounding alcohol addiction and consumption. While alcohol has played a significant role in various societies throughout history, it's crucial to recognize the potential risks associated with its use. As mentioned earlier, these risks can include addiction, impaired judgment, and a toll on physical and mental health. Hopefully we've highlighted this throughout our episode. Ultimately, the decision to consume alcohol should be a well-informed and mindful one. Whether one chooses to abstain entirely, indulge occasionally, or navigate the middle ground, it's essential to prioritize personal health and safety. Remember that seeking support and guidance, if needed, is a sign of strength and responsibility. So I thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. And once again, information on this episode can be found in today's show notes. Thanks for tuning into A Sound Constitution on CHLY 101.7 FM.
Well, that sound means you've reached the end of another episode of A Sound Constitution. Thank you everyone for tuning in today with your hosts, Lauren, McKenna, Karis, and Kiana. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Join the conversation, access our show notes, and be in the know for our next episodes. As always, our friendly reminder to our listeners that the information presented in this show is for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare professional. If you have any questions or concerns about what's being discussed, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook at A Sound Constitution, Instagram at CHLY A Sound Constitution, all one word, or email us at asoundconstitution@gmail.com. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Until then,